Hi, we're back at the Roundhouse, and I'm going to try and explain, as I said before, that choosing your railroad or railway decides how everything else follows. Now, here we've got an example of an Atlantic, a 442. Small locomotive, but they were very functional. They ran on light lines. They could be used in small yards. They could be used on light rail where there wasn't too much traffic. In some of these places, they might not have even had a turntable to do the switching. And if they did, it was an Armstrong, meaning that people got out and pushed it. On other railways, they might have had something much larger. This is an example of a 484 by a Class 1 railroad. Now, both of these locomotives served useful purposes for the railways that they ran on. And it's a common problem when trying to set up a railway that you're tempted to go with the big is beautiful theme. Nice, big locomotives. Manufacturers want you to buy those. But you have to use common sense. If you're going to use large locomotives, they have to be going from one place to another. Railways were made to carry either time-sensitive material, which people were willing to pay a premium for, moving it from point A to point B, i.e. people, or heavy, low-value stuff that was heavy and you wanted to move it as cheaply as possible. And where are they moving these things to and from? Well, you have to build cities or towns. Yay! This is just an example of using period village pieces that were available. But the most important things to remember in any community are that you should have, of course, a station equal to the size of the community. It should have a motel. It should have a church or two. And it should have a bank. Those are the cornerstones of any community. The train brings the people in and out. The motel lodges them and usually had a bar attached to keep them happy and make more money out of them. Of course, you had to have the churches for everyone's soul, and there were dozens, and still are dozens of different churches. What is absent from this scene is the bank. It'll come eventually. But that's what building a model railway is all about, is that nothing comes all at once. And you have to decide, okay, you've got one community, you should have a second community, or is the whole purpose of that community to be perhaps an end point, a terminal point? I bring this all together for one end of my layout with a scene of water, where I've got grain elevator, ship, and that was a professionally made backdrop. And then I made my own, an extension thereof. And that's what you can do. Now, with the end of any community or your railway, it's going to be a compromise. I use 2 lines going around my small yard. But it's adequate. It gives the impression of a yard, and it gives my railway a loop to run around. Backdrops are very useful. They give an impression of an area. It can totally change what area, kind of area your trains are running through. You can have farm fields. You can have something that's getting back to nature, where it's getting away from city life. But why did I start with these 2 locomotives, one small, one large, and go on length of about towns and destinations and what they're made of? That is because to make your railway believable, it has to be in context. If you want to run large locomotives on long runs, you have to have lots of space, or you have to go with a smaller gauge, whether it's N nincompoop gauge or Z almost 0 in size. But it's all about deciding what you want to go with and what is available to you. What can you, as long as you choose the right context, the right railway, it narrows down what you're going to buy. If you don't go for the extremely large, monstrous locomotives, you can buy exquisite examples of that particular model for whatever railway you're trying to model after. You're not going to waste dollars on getting cars that are going to have to be repainted. You can possibly get maybe even into some brass locomotives, which are very detailed. But narrowing down what you want is the most important thing before you lay down your first piece of track. You don't want to find yourself with 3 different gauges trying to figure out which one you're going with. You buy one gauge for one kid and you buy another gauge for another kid, and you can't satisfy yourself. So do the right thing, choose what you want to model, because it's your railway. It's going to end up the way you want it to. And in truth, it'll never be finished. It is something that you just keep on adding to as time goes on. Thank you for watching. And if you like what you've seen, please hit that subscribe button.